Hello and welcome back to my vlog, Essays on the Constitution of the United States, Part 9. Cassius 8, Part 1. Another longer one, split into two parts. The Massachusetts Gazette, number 391, Friday, December 14th, 1787, for the Massachusetts Gazette. To the inhabitants of this state. In some former publications, I have confined myself chiefly to pointing out the views of the opposers to the plan of the federal government. The reason why I did not enter particularly into the merits of the new Constitution is that I conceived if it was candidly read and properly attended to, that alone would be sufficient to recommend it to the acceptance of every rational and thinking mind that was interested in the happiness of the United States of America. Some babblers of the opposition junto have, however, complained that nothing has been said, except in general terms, in favor of the federal Constitution. In consequence of this, incompetent as I am to the undertaking, I have been induced to lay the following remarks before the public. Section 1st of the new Constitution says, quote, all legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, end quote. I beg the reader to pay particular attention to the words herein granted, as perhaps there may be occasion for me to recur to them more than once in the course of my observations. The second section of the federal Constitution says that the members of the House of Representatives shall be chosen every second year, and the electors shall have the qualifications requisite for electors of the most numerous branch of the state legislature. Some have made objections to the time for which the representatives are to be chosen, but it is to be considered that the convention, in this particular, meant to accommodate the time for which the representatives should stand elected to the constitutions of the different states. If it had been provided that the time should have been of shorter duration, would not a citizen of Maryland or South Carolina have reason to murmur? The weakness the Anti-Federalists discover in insinuating that the federal government will have it in their power to establish a despotic government must be obvious to everyone. For the time for which they are elected is so short as almost to preclude the possibility of their effecting plans for enslaving so vast an empire as the United States of America, even if they were so base as to hope for anything of the kind. The representatives of the people would also be conscious that their good conduct alone would be the only thing which could influence a free people to continue to bestow on them their suffrages. The representatives of the people would not, moreover, dare to act contrary to the instructions of their constituents. And if any one can suppose that they would, I would ask them why such clamor is made about a Bill of Rights for securing the liberties of the subject. For if the delegates dared to act contrary to their instructions, would they be afraid to encroach upon a Bill of Rights? If they determined among themselves to use their efforts to effect the establishment of an aristocratical or despotic government, would a Bill of Rights be any obstacle to their proceedings? If they were guilty of a breach of trust in one instance, they would be so in another. The second section also says, no person shall be elected a representative who shall not have been 7 years an inhabitant of the United States. This clause effectually confounds all the assertions of the Anti-Federalists respecting the representatives not being sufficiently acquainted with the different local interests of their constituents. For a representative, qualified as the Constitution directs, must be a greater numbskull than a vox populi or an Agrippa, not to have a knowledge of the different concerns of the Confederation. The objection that the representation will not be sufficient is weak in the highest degree. It is supposed that there are sufficient inhabitants in the state of Massachusetts to warrant the sending of 6 delegates, at least, to the new Congress. To suppose that 3 gentlemen of the first characters and abilities were inadequate to represent the concerns of this state in a just manner would be absurd in the highest degree and contradictory to reason and common sense. The weakness of the Anti-Federalists in regard to the point just mentioned sufficiently shows their delinquency with respect to rational argument. They have done nothing more than barely to assert that the representation would not be sufficient. It is a true saying that assertions are often the very reverse of facts. That's the end of the part 1. Part 2 tomorrow. I'm glad I stuck with it this long because this part 8, actually, Cassius 8, actually is more than just ad hominem. However, time has proven his assertions to be incorrect, as the Anti-Federalists were correct, I believe. Make it a great day, and bye for now.